The Scottish Military Research Group's collection of photographs runs from the late 1800s to the modern day. A common subject is military men and women posing with family or friends. Unfortunately, the sitters in the majority of our photographs are unnamed, and from time to time we like to showcase some of our collection here, in the hope that our viewers might one day recognise a family member or can identify a location. This short film looks at a small selection of photographs which feature a soldier and another person. They may be family, children or friends. Each photograph will include a number at the top left of the screen. Please feel free to use these numbers if you want to add a comment to help us identify which photograph you're commenting on. The first 3 photographs were printed by Gale Studios Limited. Gale Studios operate throughout the United Kingdom, including branches in Glasgow, London and most major cities. Tying a photo to a particular location using just the studio name is a difficult task without further information. The first of our Gale Studios shots features a man who appears to be wearing hospital blues. This was a uniform worn by patients admitted to military or convalescence hospitals who were able to get out of bed, and comprised a single-breasted suit and trousers made of a flannel-type material of a blue colour. His cap badge appears to be that of a Cameron Highlander, but his spelling hospital could have been anywhere in the UK. The identity of his companion is also a mystery: a sweetheart, a new bride, or a family relative. Our next photo from Gale Studios showcases a selection of hats, one of which is a tam o' shanter with a hackle, indicating our sergeant was serving in the Black Watch at the time. Are these men brothers or former brothers-in-arms? The final photo in our selection from Gale Studios features an Argyll Sutherland Highlander, presumably posing with his wife and child. Unusually, the Glengarry is not diced as would be expected for an Argyll Sutherland Highlander. He might be a piper, as all pipers wore plain Glengarries, or it may be early in the First World War, when a plain Glengarry was issued to meet demand for uniform. This photo is a good example of a Scottish cutaway tunic, designed to be worn with a sporran, although Scottish units that were not kilted also wore it. This presumed family portrait has 2 men in uniform. The man on the left has the recognisable badge of the Cameronian Scottish Rifles. The man on the right has a tunic which, by the number of buttons and the style of collar, marks him out as a serviceman in the Canadian Forces. The photographer was Miss Fraser of 134B Nethergate, Dundee. Has anyone found a family in the research with links to the Canadians and the Cameronians? Here we have a soldier in the Black Watch with an Imperial Service badge, which indicates that this man was a member of the Territorial Force who volunteered to serve abroad in wartime. This photo was addressed to cousin Maggie with fondest love. Is Maggie one of the girls posing with this soldier? The photographer who took this portrait was S.W. Pritchard of Lochee, Dundee. Given the bandolier and spurs, this is clearly some kind of mounted soldier. With a Dundee location, could he perhaps be the Scottish Horse? Let us know if you can add some information. This photo features only one man in uniform, the second lieutenant in the Royal Engineers, who at some point in the past has suffered the loss of his right arm. Standing behind him is a man who appears to be wearing a silver war badge, awarded to those in the military who had been discharged as no longer able to serve, either through illness or wounds. This was taken at White & Sons, 20 Union Street, Glasgow. What was the occasion? Were these men related in some way, or perhaps did they share the same employer? Perhaps it was a group of comrades who had survived the war and wished to record the occasion. This is the only photo in this selection with a confirmed date, 19th of April 1918. There's some family resemblance, so perhaps this is a young soldier posing with his mother and sister. The photographer had studios in Doncaster and Blackpool, so is this perhaps the Liverpool Scottish or another English regiment with a Scots affiliation? This photo shows a sergeant in a unit of the Royal Artillery. This can be confirmed by the appearance of the gun badge above his sergeant stripes. The photographer was G.R. Mackay, who had studios at 25 Northbridge, Edinburgh, and could also be found at Crown Studios, 70 Leith Walk, Leith. Do you recognise the family? Our soldier in this photo looks to be posing with his family, and he has a couple of medal ribbons on his uniform. The lighter one might be a 1914 or 1415 star. Could the darker one be a gallantry award? It might be the Distinguished Conduct Medal, but we are not completely sure. This photograph was taken at the Causeway Studio at 89 Union Street in Aberdeen. Do you know this man and his family? The next photo features a smart-looking Seaforth Highlander and a lady in a white dress, hat and gloves. Is this a couple posing for a wedding photograph? If so, did he survive to enjoy a long marriage? We'd love to know more. Do you recognise them? Let us know. Family postcards were less common in the Second World War, but examples such as the next few photographs do turn up from time to time. This man is named as Bob Keane. We can see several distinguishing items on Bob's uniform. The first is the cap badge of the Cameron Highlanders. Next is what appears to be cloth shoulder titles. In the First World War, regiments were identified by metal shoulder titles. When battle dress was introduced in the late 1930s, it was decided that the only official unit insignia would be slip-on shoulder titles in the same colour, as shown here. The final item of note is the hackle behind his cap badge. This would be a blue colour. The hackle was worn by the Cameron Highlanders in France, wearing them for the first time at Arras on the 11th of February 1940. When they returned to Britain after Dunkirk, the use of the hackle was discontinued, not being given War Office approval again until 1951. This photo is frustrating due to a lack of any names or locations. The battle dress indicates the Second World War at least, but we can't add any more to that. The uniform appears to be a little darker than normal, but we can't be sure if that's caused by the photograph. Is the type of house in the background distinctive enough to narrow a location down? Let us know in the comments if it does. Presumably a father with his two children, this names the sitters as Richard, Pat and Douglas. One of them served in the Seaforth Highlanders, but was it Richard, Pat or Douglas? Unfortunately, we don't know. The photographer was James Thompson & Co. of 9 Bank Street in Inverness, so perhaps that helps narrow down who they were. Our final image in this video shows a wedding party and appears to date from after the First World War. The lady's fashion certainly seems to indicate the 1920s. The two younger men are both Seaforth Highlanders, but the older man holds the military cross, so is an officer or senior NCO. He has what looks to be an Indian General Service Medal before his First World War service medals, and a medal after the World War I trio, although it's not clear enough to identify. Do you know the identity of this wedding party? If you can help with this or any of the other photos in this video, please don't hesitate to get in touch with us. Someone out there might just hold that vital piece of the jigsaw to complete the puzzle. Please post your ideas in the comments below, and thank you for watching.